All right, we are, you know, less than 24 hours away from Uriah Hall versus Anderson Silva. Supposedly, it's been being touted on social media. It's all of this promotion and build up. This is Anderson Silva's last fight, right? Even in the interviews leading up to this, it's been, let's talk about some of your greatest matches, where he's gone through and said, yes, let's talk about my career and all of that. But now we're hearing from Anderson himself, he's saying some things in these post-fight or pre-fight interviews where it sounds like he might be done in the UFC, but not done fighting overall. What do we make of this? Do we think he's actually going to retire? Do we think he's going somewhere else? What's your thoughts on this?
I mean, it's Anderson. For how long he's been fighting, I feel like I will never believe him saying he's retiring. He'll just kind of be a guy who floats off into the distance like a Sean Sherk or a Matt Hughes, who they don't say it, but they're like, yeah, I'm retiring. Like, I've retired now. After years of speculation, everyone's like, all right, I'm assuming he's done. He's going to be like 60. And he's like, no, one more fight.
Yeah.
It's my Anderson Silva impression right there. So, I mean, I don't think that he will retire. I do think that if he is going to retire, actually, he will honor the contract, which is believed to be 2 more fights, including this one tomorrow. But how he's talking makes it sound like this will be his last UFC fight, despite having that extra fight on his contract. So it's like, did he work out some arrangement with Dana before this where he's like, all right, man, let's cut it off here. Like, he wants to go somewhere else for whatever reasons, which is totally possible. And I mean, I don't know what they could be. I have some thoughts in mind, but you tell me what you think of it all first.
I mean, you're right in terms of, supposedly has 2 fights left on that contract. And it probably will be kind of a thing where when Anderson Silva retires, it won't be a big announcement. It'll just be he just stops. I think the most likely scenario, I've been playing this over in my head based on what he's saying, and the most likely scenario that makes sense is if he goes and he does an exhibition, right? Like maybe he retires, but then at the same time, comes out of retirement a year or 2 later and does an exhibition MMA match or does a special boxing match, right? Something of that nature. And you got to remember, he's the oldest fighter in the UFC right now. He's 45. He is the oldest fighter. He's been his last time out against Cannonier. Again, another leg injury. The dude is not what he once was. I mean, I love him to death. I'm excited to see him fight tomorrow, but at the same time, it's not the Anderson Silva of old. And I don't know how much more punishment he can take and how much more the UFC is going to let him take. So maybe it is that they're letting him out of his contract to go fight in other promotions. Maybe not. But I think my money would be on an exhibition match.
That's a really good guess. And I mean, he has always wanted to do that Roy Jones Jr. boxing match, which he's got one coming up himself. So I mean, that's a whole nother thing. But that's something that he has talked about repeatedly. And I feel like, 2 years ago, that actually had some good steam to it from what I remember. I'd have to go back and look, but something that obviously he's been very interested in for whatever reason. And so that brings me to one of the possibilities that we cannot deny with any fighter over the age of 40, 50, and beyond is the bare knuckle boxing ring.
Yes. Oh, of course.
Which you never know.
Yeah.
You never know.
I mean, yeah, it's one of those. Who's the middleweight champ right now in BKFC?
No idea, and I don't care.
Yeah, I forget. Oh man, I want to say it's middleweight champ.
Well, I know Kendall Grove does bare knuckle now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not Hector. Lombard is, dude. They're gonna do Lombard and Silva. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's what it is.
The fight we missed out on. The Bellator UFC champ fight that we missed out on. We did it. We solved it right there.
Yep, we did. We solved that riddle. No, it's 100%. You heard it here first. It's Lombard versus Silva in BKFC. It makes way too much sense. Because I was going to say, I was like, I know it's somebody recognizable as their middleweight champ. And I was trying to think who it was. And then as I was pulling it up, it definitely makes sense. I think for sure that would be a fight that they'd be interested. Knowing Dave Feldman, we've had him on the Fight Business podcast. Sounds right up his alley. I think it makes a lot of sense. And again, if Dana, I feel like Data would probably be open to it because of what Silva has contributed to the sport, and he's not the same type of fighter he was, and he's also not pulling in the same numbers, right? It's not
Yeah.
that now it's a must. I have to tune in for an Anderson Silva fight. Even the way they're hyping this, I think they're basically banking on
Couldn't not be
pushing it
better.
as his retirement fight as why people will tune in. So, I think at this point it's I don't want to say he's hit the BJ Penn levels of drawing power because at the end there it just got, I mean, that got rough. But he's definitely on that trajectory where he can still compete, right? He hasn't looked terrible to a point where it's like, oh, okay, you need to hang him up. But he also is not himself at how much, when are we going to see that cliff? I feel like, I hope it's not tomorrow night, but it might be tomorrow night. Uriah Hall might just beat the brakes off of him.
Yeah.
So, it's tough. And I mean, to round it out, to put an exclamation point on this, I want to know three things. I think we've solved it. I think we're on the same page, but I want to know three things from you. One, is this his last fight? Is he hanging him up? Two, if it's not, where is he going? And three, who wins between Hall and Silva tomorrow?
Okay, so no, and then no. Second, what was the second one?
Where's he going?
Where's he going?
Yeah.
No, okay. I do think that the bare knuckle one is actually a pretty good guess. And actually, I'm not going to say because of Lombard, as much as that is something now, but we're forgetting about a Chris Leben rematch.
That's true too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we're forgetting about, I don't think this one's very realistic because I'm sure that they're friends. But Vanderlei Silva hasn't debuted in BKFC yet. Okay.
That's true.
And that is something that they would eat up. Okay. So
yes.
there are several options for Silva in BKFC, which is insane to say that out loud right now. But so yeah, I think that's a pretty good choice. But I mean, he could. I was going to say Bellator. A lot of people would go to Bellator, but I think they're moving away from this kind of thing, as we've seen in this past week with the releases and not re-signings with certain people. Specifically, names like Frank Mir and Roy Nelson, who really stayed a little bit past the time they should have, especially Roy, who's he's lost 5 in a row, I think, or something crazy.
Yeah.
And he's like 44 too now. So it seems like they're moving on from that kind of, I don't want to say business model, but they put some investment into those guys. So.
No, I'd agree. On a cheap plug for the Fight Business Podcast, I break that down in detail. Yes, I would agree. I think their business model has changed, especially with Espinoza in charge. Right? I think Showtime is calling the shots and going a different way than what Bellator has done. So yes, I'd agree with that. So I don't know that he'd end up in Bellator. And then who wins, Hall or Silva?
I think Uriah Hall definitely will win, but I don't think I'm not excited for this fight or anything. I don't really care for it just because I think stylistically it'll be fairly boring. I think it'll be kind of a counter fest. I mean, maybe Anderson will go out there and get a little bit, psyched up and into it, be a bit aggressive, but then there's no fans. And I feel like he feeds off that energy, at least from the past in the fights we've seen, like the showmanship and everything, call it arrogance or whatever you want. But think about if he would do that without a crowd. I feel like probably not to the same level as we've seen in the past. And the only reason I think that he would maybe do that is because it's his last fight, UFC or overall and whatnot. But I don't know. This Uriah Hall has definitely a lot more left in the tank and is proven to be a guy who, even when he is losing, he is still dangerous. People don't really realize about him. Like that Bevon Lewis fight is a great example. He was getting beat up pretty badly and just nailed Bevon, and I think it was the third round. Like he was losing, on his way to losing decision, and he's always in it, man. So I could definitely see him putting out Anderson, but it would be after a boring kind of, chess match, staring contest of sorts. I don't want to say chess match because I don't think it'll be like that kind of technical type of display, but a late finish for Hall or, a less than exciting unanimous decision for him.
Yeah, I'm hoping we're not getting the spiritual successor to Derek Brunson versus Anderson Silva. I'm really hoping we're not getting that, but I feel like it's definitely
Brunson
a
was
possibility.
robbed.
Even still, that's very much what this fight could be. Is just like, oh, like okay. Hopefully not, but we'll see. Hopefully, it's flashy. It's not going to be the same when they were originally booked, and Silva had to pull out because of the gallbladder issues, which was I think 4 or 5 years ago. I was much more excited for the fight at that point because they were younger. They were both doing a lot of spinning stuff. It was, that looked like it could be flashy. I doubt that's going to happen here. But Hall has been training in Fortis MMA now, so who knows? And yeah, I'm with you. The same three answers on my end. I think it's not his last fight, especially the way he's been talking. BKFC, it's way too juicy for that not to happen, unless Dana blocks it because of the extra 2 fights on the contract. But even then, I don't know that he would. And then, yeah, I think Hall takes this hopefully in exciting fashion. We'll see, but you never know. But there you go. It's Silva to BKFC. It's done.
Heard it.
It's done.
He's gonna actually fight all three of those guys, not just one of them.
Yeah, fight him in one night, round robin.
Jeez.